Hi guys, my name is coverkillernation. If you're just one of the fans of the channel, thank you very much for watching this video. But some of you I know are in bands, either that or have friends that are in bands, and perhaps you are wondering ways in which they can either improve themselves, either that or improve the way in which they are seen by the entire world. Now, I myself have been in bands before, however they were short-lived, none of the music actually ever got recorded, and we played at grand total like 2 or 3 shows. So obviously my home has always sort of been destined to be what I'm doing here, talking about this stuff. And so you might think that I'm not exactly qualified to speak on what makes an album great, either that or how to better market a band. I might not have the economic sense to recognize some of the struggles that are out there. You're probably right to a certain extent. However, in listening to this stuff every single day for more than 6 years, and really as a metal fan for more than 15, there are certain things that do make certain albums stand out, and it's a lot more than just the strength of the material, although that is a huge part of it, believe me. But did you know that it's actually possible in order to make sort of substandard material sound really, really good? It all depends on what's around it. One way that I could really explain this is that imagine if you have 2 great songs, 2 absolutely powerful tracks, ones that really have a lot of speaking power. But then you have one that perhaps maybe isn't as good, and you slap that in the middle. You might think, oh, that's probably not a very good idea. And you're absolutely right. Slapping that song in the middle of 2 terrific numbers causes it just to be skipped. However, if you put those 2 songs first, and then put the little less standard song third, there's a good possibility that the hangover effect from the previous 2 tracks could actually psychologically give a person a reason to look for something terrific in that song. Basically, you want to set up great tracks in order to help boost up the other songs that perhaps you're not as confident with, the ones that you don't think are quite as good. Now, one thing that is essential whenever it comes to crafting a great album, based off of that same concept, is your track listing. Do not just simply look at songs and think that you can slap them together in any order and it's going to be acceptable to your listeners. You have to examine the way in which your music flows. And you're the expert of your music, considering you and your bandmates, or you, if you're all watching this, have been together and playing these songs for hopefully a long enough period of time, or at least a sufficient period where you understand where some of the strengths and weaknesses of each individual track lie. Now, one thing that I have to say is whenever choosing material, you have to check your ego at the door. I understand that you have each written something that is absolutely amazing. It's astounding. It's the best thing that you've ever written. But if it's something that doesn't fit the overall theme, or something that doesn't fit the overall character of the album that you're attempting to make, the EP that you're attempting to make, whatever it may be, it's something where you have to be willing to have those things in the vault ready to go. Because, let's face it, if you don't use something at this moment, that doesn't mean that it dies forever. It shouldn't at least mean that. It's something where a band should certainly be an equal partnership. Now, there are some that maybe brought the group together, or perhaps have a little bit more of songwriting prowess that are able to get a little bit more going, or contribute a little bit more. But in reality, it's something where whenever it comes to bringing it all together and sort of representing this, there should be a real, sort of committee that is talking about how this is going to flow. Don't be afraid, once you have your songs recorded, to listen to them in different orders and try to determine which order is the best one for your album. That's something that's absolutely, absolutely essential. A bad album flow can take an album of great material and easily take it down a notch, simply because of the way in which the songs are represented. If you have 3 or 4 great songs that are just jilted around everywhere, mixed around 7 that are poor, it's going to make the album a hell of a listen for your fans. Now, what about whenever it comes to marketing? Now, this is one place that there has been a lot of discussion about, considering the way in which the environment is right now. With live shows really serving as one of the biggest revenue earners for a lot of bands, considering a lot of music now is being downloaded or whatever it may be. T-shirts and merchandise and concert tickets and this and that are seen as really, really paramount. And I do agree with this. This is something that should always be one of your biggest priorities. If you're sufficient enough musicians where you can perform your music live and do so very, very well, then you need to work on your performance. You need to work on your stage show. You need to work on your rapport with the audience. You want to give the audience a little bit of something back. Now, I understand that everybody wants to go up onto the stage, grab a microphone and say, let's start this pit, and expects a mosh pit to happen. Well, if you're a brand new band and this is your first show, chances are no one's going to give enough of a fuck about you to even think about it. Now, after a couple of shows, you need to showcase some ecstatic energy. You have to have that energy always be present. You don't just walk right up there and do that. But if you do and it works, then I guess stick with what you know. But either way, you want to have that energy be constant throughout the entirety of the show. Do not be a static band, even if you are playing a passage that has a little bit more of a softness to it, a softer register to it. At least have your body language reflect that, as opposed to your body language merely reflecting, I am playing music, I am playing my instrument and focused on that. You know, make sure that your personality bleeds out a little bit on your show, because that's the best marketing tool that you can really give. Something that the fans are going to remember. Now, whenever it comes to merchandise, your show should always have perhaps something available for the fans to consume. Whether it be an EP, a couple of songs that are available for nothing, just so you can spread the word a little bit. Whether it be a t-shirt, a button, something, you know, a business card that you want to hand out to potential vendors. This is something where it's always essential to market yourself. However, we are in a situation right now, we are in an age where there are a ton of heavy metal bands that are out there. Really, in every town, I've heard about local scenes that are littered with a ton of metal groups, and ones that seem to just circulate and reform and then break up and things like that. This is a commitment. I understand if things aren't going anywhere after a short period of time, it gets a little bit frustrating. I get that. However, you still have to have a little bit of belief. Let's take a look, for example, at this channel. After 6 years, we're still not at 50,000 subscribers. We're still not, you know, at 100 million views or anything like that. But you know what? 47,000 subscribers and 10 million views, that's pretty damn good. That's something that a lot of folks that whenever they first, you know, start their work, hope that they instantly get. But that's just not the way that it works. We're in an environment right now where we are trying to promote so much that we actually have a really decorated underground scene and a decorated metal scene. However, you're not seeing as many champions as perhaps you were used to from decades past. You don't see certain scenes that are sort of shining above the rest. Instead, they are just merely being seen as front runners, sort of flag bearers for the heavy metal genre. And really, in reality, in order to start a scene or get something going, you need to be willing to cross-promote, you need to be willing to work together, and you need to be willing to coexist. Now, doing this might seem like it's trying to take a little bit of money out of your pocket. But in reality, if you're able to establish yourselves as a decorated scene, something that actually brings a little bit of culture and a little bit of importance to that musical style of your area, it's something that's going to help you in the future. It's going to have that message spread, and that's exactly what you want. So whenever it comes to merchandise, how much should you really have? Is there really a limit? Not really. If you have the artist, if you have the ability, if you have the real, disposable income, it's something where merchandise is a good thing to have as well. That way, it's represented. Because if somebody walks around in a t-shirt that a heavy metal fan or a music fan doesn't recognize, there's a very good chance that they're going to stop that person and say, hey, what's the deal with that t-shirt? Who are they? What's the deal? And then they're going to ask about that band. Another good thing that you want to do, especially if you are wearing your own merchandise, is be willing to talk about your band. Don't just say, oh, I'm just in a band, we're really, really good. Describe it a little bit. Maybe offer them a little bit of something that can give them the opportunity to scope out what your band is all about. Hopefully these have been some pretty helpful tips for you. I know that we sort of just scratched the surface, but I can hear it's getting very, very loud outside with some construction. Just like constructing a road, constructing a band and constructing a product is something that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of risk. And these are things that you have to be willing to do if you are going to be successful, or at least be competent enough to have a long-lasting band that has even the slightest dream of being signed. So keep at it. Even if you've been on the local scene or the underground scene for quite some time, keep going. This is not something where you need to give up right now just because it seems to be going a little rough. Keep the faith, keep doing what you're doing, keep on improving, and maybe you one day will be reviewed by someone like me or someone else. Maybe you one day will be selling out arenas. Maybe you one day will go down as a music legend.